I just want to start out this video by saying Biden has developed aggressive prostate cancer. I would also add maybe it looks like dementia too. All cancer stuff aside, is it possible that, due to crimes he committed, he deserves to spend every lucid moment of the rest of his life behind bars? Yeah. But all political stuff aside, I pray and hope for healing for him because I'm just not the type of person to let stuff like criminal activity lower me to the point of rooting for cancer. That's just how I feel about it. If you're the type to be like, well, he's a piece of crap and deserves to have his boo-boo hole rot off, I get it, but miss me with that because I'm not about that life. Anyways, on to the good stuff. Welcome to the Doghouse. What we know about it is that 1, Republicans called this cognitive decline during the 2020 presidential run. Remember when they were keeping him in the basement and Trump was out here doing all these rallies while Biden... So on the cancer front, following a routine physical examination February 2024, Biden's physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, declared him a healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male. He also stated that Biden was completely healthy both mentally and physically. Now, it's not 100%, but more like 98% sure that the cancer was present during this exam. According to Google, prostate cancer, this advance takes at least 2 to 3 years to develop and up to 8 years to spread into the bones, which Biden has. So this doctor was either negligent or someone coerced him into providing a clean bill of health, and they were going to run him in 2024. In my opinion, the cognitive thing is way worse. So in 23, they knew he was sick. We know that because of the audio file from the special counsel interview by Robert Hur, showing him to be confused, not knowing when his son died, not knowing when he left office, and not knowing how classified documents got into his basement.
So during this time, you were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden, or the cancer moonshot, for your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working?
I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. Or if I ran again, running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2019. 2015 he died?
It's 2015.
I think it's 2015.
Oh, you that much of the month or anything goes
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
Trump gets elected in November of 2017?
Oh, yes,
2016. All right. So, why not 2017?
Well, that's when you left the office in January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right. Correct.
Okay, yeah. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and
Robert Hur later gave this testimony regarding that interview.
There has been a lot of attention paid to language in the report about the president's memory, so let me say a few words about that. My task was to determine whether the president retained or disclosed national defense information willfully. That means knowingly and with the intent to do something the law forbids. The evidence and the president himself put his memory squarely at issue. We interviewed the president and asked him about his recorded statement. Quote, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs," end quote. He also said he didn't remember finding any classified material in his home after his vice presidency. And he didn't remember anything about how classified documents about Afghanistan made their way into his garage.
There's also this clip from Speaker Mike Johnson outlining how Democrats tried to block him from having a one-on-one with Biden.
And I started requesting a meeting with the president because, I'm kind of old school. I'm a constitutional law guy. Speaker of the House should be able to talk to the president, especially in times of great national interest and calamity. But they wouldn't let me meet with him, and his staff kept giving me excuses. This went on for like 8 or 9 weeks. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, he doesn't have time. What are you talking about? I'm second in line of the presidency. He has time. I need to talk to him. Long story short, they finally relented. They invited me to the White House. I show up and I realize it's actually an ambush because it's not just me and the president. It's also Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem, the CIA director. The president reaches over just like this. We're sitting right next to the fireplace in the Oval, and he grabs my arm and he says, "The speaker and I just need a couple minutes together. Would y'all just leave us alone?" And I looked up on the faces of some of the staff standing around the wall, and they're like, "Oh, no, he did it." So he called it. He's the commander-in-chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office, right over the rug by that coffee table. And I said, "Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard, and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, "Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago." And he goes, "No, I didn't do that." And he's arguing with me. I said, "Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that." And he goes, "Oh, you talk about natural gas." "Yes, sir." He said, No, you misunderstand." He said, "What I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG." I said, "No, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security." It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
So as early as 2023, for sure this guy was going downhill. Now, if you ever needed a reason to like Scott Bessent, here it is.
Who was the president? And who has been the president since January 20th, 2025?
Donald J. Trump.
Okay. And who was the president in 2024?
One believes President Biden.
One believes? You one of those non-believers that the American people didn't vote?
I am not.
You're not? You said one believes? Do you believe in the Constitution of the United States and it should be abided by?
I believe in the Constitution of the United States.
So you believe in it without any second thought?
This guy is a gangster. He's got that crap-eating grin. He's like, "I'm not budging on this issue because I know there's no way he was behind all those White House actions, the executive orders, the pardons." So on the day that Biden dropped out of the 2024 race, his brother Frank Biden did an interview with CBS.
Margaret, we're now hearing for the first time from a member of President Biden's family about this decision. CBS News had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers, and here's what he told us. He said, "I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left." We asked him whether he feels that his brother's overall health and vitality played a major role in this decision, and he says, "In my humble opinion, absolutely." So a member of the president's family now confirming that the president's health was indeed a major factor in this decision and calling his brother a hero for making the decision to pass the torch to Kamala Harris.
So he confirmed health as a major reason for his brother for dropping out of the race. Also notice the words, "whatever time we have left." Now, I don't think that means we're both really old. I think that means something's going on with little Joey. So instead of backing him up and saying, yeah, they're both really old, that would have been a reasonable defense, the media instead tried to discredit Frank Biden by saying he's a drunk and he doesn't know what he's talking about. At the same time as they're running blocker for Biden's cognitive decline.
The president is healthy and vigorous, fit enough to perform his presidential duties.
I can tell you that he is sharper than ever.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
And so now the autopin thing has been brought back up, and for good reason. Before, we didn't have any proof of cognitive decline besides day-to-day, watching him trip and forget things. But knowing what we know now, it's different. Again, they were going to try to run him in 2024, so the question is, who's behind that pin? Because clearly it couldn't have been him. There are a couple good theories.
People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
I'll get to the other one in a second, but first, the Oversight Project did a comparison of all of Biden's signatures and figured out if they were real or auto pen.
We gathered every document we could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency. All used the same auto pen signature except for the announcement that the former president was dropping out of the race last year. This news prompted Trump to post this image of Joe Biden as an auto pen machine.
So basically nothing except him dropping out of the 2024 race that he actually signed, but they actually missed one, and that would be Hunter Biden's pardon. This is Biden's real signature, so if in fact they do manage to overturn all the pardons that were granted through AutoPen, they still couldn't touch Hunter because Biden actually signed this one. Wouldn't it be messed up if the person behind the pen turned out to be Hunter?
You are going and looking at who is controlling this AutoPen, because Joe Biden, I mean, he's demonstrating that he doesn't have all the cognitive capabilities they had.
So what we found is not just with the pardons he issued, but many of the executive orders that the courts are now using to Trump-proof, many of these executive orders, as well as the pardons of Biden's entire family, as a result of our investigation, these were all signed with the AutoPen. We think we've identified who the staffers are. Jason, you all have done great work with that over at Heritage Oversight. We're going to bring everyone that we believe was involved in any role in the use of the AutoPen. We're going to invite them to come in for a transcribed interview. If they want, then they will receive a subpoena and they will have a full-blown deposition. Somebody has to give the authority to use the AutoPen. Obviously, Joe Biden wasn't the one that stuck the papers. There's no paper trail. There's no evidence that we found that that person was Joe Biden. So we're looking at the senior officials, and don't rule out Hunter Biden. He spent a lot of time in the Oval Office in the last 3 months.
No wonder that Biden got prostate cancer with so many nasty hands up his for so long. Because liberal, if you like what I do, please leave a like, they really help. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, you're dropping things right out of your pocket here.
Larry? Yeah? You want to come in here for a minute, huh?